Hey everybody, welcome back to the 131st episode of Taps and Patience. The music is still really loud today. I'm AJ with Audacity Micro and Subtract Manufacturing, here with Harrison of Precision Ingenuity and Ben of Pear Prototypes. How you guys doing?
Guys.
Doing good. How are you doing, Ben?
Doing good. Trying to stay busy.
Did that music deafen anybody else?
A little bit, but not too bad.
Yeah,
Maybe I just had to guess louder. I'm gonna turn it down. That's the first time I've ever had to stop the music so that I could do the rest of the intro. Machining.
Yeah, that's what we do.
That's all I do.
So, yeah, okay. Ben, you're a Patreon, and I think probably most of our listeners have heard me say your name many times. What do you do? Who are you? Maybe in the opposite order. Who are you and what do you do?
So, yeah, Ben, I did welding in high school, was going to go to trade school for welding, ended up touring the machine shop. It was going to be the very first. So basically when I toured, it was the first week that the new instructors being there setting the shop up. So I ended up in the second cohort of the new machining program. Hawses, they ended up with some brand new Mazak lathes that were fun to crash. And then, graduated with the 5 other people that made it all the way through the 2-year program. Then got dumped into aerospace machining for the first 5 years. Moved to Texas, did a year of prototyping on mills. And then now I've been... and a year of managing a shop in there.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's an experience. And then now I'm 3 years at production lathe work, and then 4 years into starting my own business, and 1 year into having my own machine.
Sweet. So your shop, that's Prickly Pear Prototypes, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what kind of work do you do there?
So lately it's been a lot of ITAR work. There's a lot of defense startups in Austin and local to me. So that was what forced my hand going ITAR, just to be able to see their files. And then that's led a little bit to Research Lab, Los Alamos, stuff like that.
Now,
so just light prototypes.
Gotcha. Now, what equipment are you running with all this work you're doing with yourself?
So I just right now have a robo drill, used robo, 2006, one of the black robo drills.
Oh, okay.
Running it off my dryer plug with a phase converter.
Nice.
Still haven't hit the limit of that 10 horsepower converter, and I've stalled the spindle.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned you're doing ITAR work. What software are you using with that?
So I'm getting away. I feel safe enough with Fusion 360.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just making sure that offline mode on, and then I import a Fusion file in, and then I export the Fusion file out.
Mm-hmm.
So technically, I feel safe enough that the files aren't hitting Fusion servers. Now, this is also mainly simple brackets for a research lab.
Mm-hmm.
Something that, yes, it has to be technically covered, but doesn't actually matter.
Yeah.
I got some defense startup parts for drone killers, and those files, those aren't getting uploaded to Fusion. There's some wild stuff.
So how will you handle those?
They kind of ended up ghosting me.
Oh, that's disappointing.
They wanted all of the parts to be done from one single source, but you had gun-drilled 20-inch long titanium tubes and super crazy 5-axis, and then a plate with 2 holes in it. So it's kind of one of those where it's you're not going to get a good price from one supplier.
Mm-hmm. Too much different type of work.
Yeah. Not
even that, just the price. To get a shop that's going to be willing to gun drill something 20 inches deep, they're not going to want to touch the plate with 2 holes.
True. That is true.
Yeah, then a little bit of zometry here and there just to kind of build up my back end.
And so you've been in the trade, you said your whole career. How long has that been in total? How many years is that?
So this year makes 10 years counting my trade school. So 8 years full time, and I did work in a shop during trade school, a little bit here and there. So basically, yeah, 10 years.
So both me and AJ, correct me if I'm wrong, you never went to a trade school for any of the machining stuff.
No, I mean I have an engineering degree, but
Yeah. So as someone who's come from a trade school background rather than self-taught, how much do you feel like the trade school prepared you for the machining challenges you faced?
So the way I've always looked at it is that the trade school allowed me to skip the first like 3 years of my career and get ahead. I kind of skipped that whole running the saw, just operating. My first job at a trade school, I was programming and running a UMC 750 and a C-axis subspindle lathe,
Oh, very nice.
where some of the other guys, yeah, they got in as setup guys, not just operators. So it kind of just gives you that head start.
And working as an operator level or higher, were you responsible for programming setup and running, or did you just stay in the programming setup and then there was a different guy that would come and push buttons and keep the programs going? Like,
So
what did that look like?
that first shop I was at, all of us, it was cradle to grave for the job. So as
Okay.
soon as that job came in, I was programming it, setting up, running it. And some of those, it was little pin for aerospace that the shank was a 4/10 diameter tolerance. And the lathe, the best I could get it to was 2/10 of taper.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had to run 1,800 of them
Mm-hmm.
on a machine that had no thermal comp.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I was sitting there all day, 2/10 down, 2/10 down. Then they'd open the bay door, and all of a sudden I'm 3 thou big. It was fun.
One thing we've done to fight taper, which I don't know if anyone else has ever done, I'm assuming someone out there has, but on the lathe, we've actually gone into our models and put the inverse taper into the model and then machined it and it comes out pretty straight. Have you ever done that to try to fight
Oh,
tape?
yeah. So the easiest way that I've ever found to do that, and this is just with lathe work, my assumption is you're always going to be hand editing the G code a little bit, pretty
Mm-hmm.
much no matter what. So I will just put in a U value on that Z line, which
Mm-hmm.
is an incremental X movement. So then I'll just have a U negative 2/10. Then that'll automatically taper it 2/10 before it goes back.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, knowing those incremental moves is super helpful on a lathe.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, that makes two of us. Like I'm drawing sketches in Fusion and
Oh, yeah, no,
Is
yeah, just add a U value to the Z position. So you're starting at like 1/4 inch and you want to go up 2/10 while you're going back a 1/2 inch. So you just add a U 0.002 and then your Z value, and then it'll just taper up with the G code.
oh,
Is that
is
like a
so
controller
cool.
specific thing, or is that a like all machines do that?
So if you ever see a U, V, or W in your code, that is an incremental move, not an absolute move.
Gotcha.
So you can actually, if you're doing an array of parts and you want to save space, you can program all your high speeds as incremental moves around the part. So then you just have, oh, I want to go to this XYZ starting position for this part. Well, then the next one is just go to this position and then run the exact same code.
Yeah, I would have done that with like a G90 and a G91.
Yeah. But yeah, you can do that the same way. This is Fanuc and Mitsubishi, I know for a fact.
Okay,
I'm pretty
I
sure
want to try this
Haas's
on
will
my
do it
Haas
too.
now and my Tormach. I bet the
Yeah.
Tormach doesn't,
And
but
this is more useful on a lathe than a mill, definitely.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's really interesting.
That's one thing that I haven't done a whole lot of is hand editing code. It's one of the elements that I'm definitely weaker in. I try to hand edit as little as possible. Though the one exception to that is if there's something a little bit more complex that I don't have, I will type out all the code and save it as a template. And for example, the bar pulling uh, that we do on
Yeah.
our machine. I created a chunk of code and I have a whole bunch of macro variables to control it, and I can put that into any program real easy.
Yeah, that's our Eurotex that I run. It's a Eurotech Rapido, which is the main machine that I'm setting up and running at the day job. That machine, it's a twin turret, twin spindle, but it also has the ability to have a tailstock.
Mm-hmm.
So you're running 3 channels on the Mitsubishi control. So you have a program for the upper turret, lower turret, and a separate program for the sub spindle.
Oh
And
my goodness.
that machine is fully macro driven. You never touch G54, G55. It's all set in the program. So that thing is, yeah, even a spree, our post that was supposed to be 100% good, we're still hand editing it to get it going.
Interesting.
When you have multiple channels running like that, is it pretty hard to kind of keep track of what's going on where?
Oh yeah, it's a whole new ball game, because at that point you're pretty much, when you add the sub spindle to a lathe, you pretty much add a whole second program when you're proving it out. When you add the lower turret, if you're working on both main and sub, now you have 4 total programs that you're trying to prove out.
Oh
And
my
the fun
goodness.
part with when you're having all the multiple channels, you don't necessarily want to have all your syncs line up for op stops to work. So like our twin turret machines, you can't op stop them
Really?
because this head will start waiting, because it'll hit a wait code before that op stop while the other head is still running. So that leads to fun. Another fun part, you have to prove it out at full rapids, because all of your clearances change at full rapid versus low rapid.
Oh my gosh. No, thank you.
And I've posted some pictures on the Discord of some of the super sketchy clearances we have.
Oh,
I'm going to
man.
stick to mills.
I just posted recently in the general page our part off parks below the main spindle. And
I saw that one.
Yeah, I just had to extend it out to clear the spindle, the collet nose by like 20 thou. And that thing just full rapids into position.
My goodness.
Yeah,
Now,
it's fancy.
now, when you get them up and running, I'm sure they produce parts like nobody's business.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you outpace anything else. Just about.
That's cool.
But when you crash it, then it gets real fun, because it's any crashes in alignment on that machine.
Yeah.
And the tech comes out with an angle grinder, because he's got to get every single panel out and regrind taper pins.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's like a 3-day affair every time.
So I got a question on alignments, because when we were looking at a spoiler alert for everyone, we did buy a Doosan. So a Doosan lathe. But when we were talking to a shop that had some of the lathes that we went and toured, they mentioned that on the back of the turret, when you get the machine, there's 2 alignment pins. And they said when you get the machine, that you need to take a panel off and you need to take those alignment pins out. That way, if you ever do crash and it gets tweaked, you're not bending or twisting those alignment pins, and so you can stick them back. You can loosen the bolts and stick them back in to those holes to realign the turret significantly easier if there is a crash. And by not having them in there, if a crash does happen, the turret can absorb it better because it's not putting all that force into those pins.
Mechanical fuse.
I wonder how that affects rigidity of the machine and repeatability.
That's what I didn't know.
That would be my question, because you got a lot of cutting forces with a lathe. You got a lot of stuff trying to twist that turret.
That's what I was trying to figure out. I had never heard of that. It makes sense on the one hand that, like, if you're going to have crashes, it makes it significantly more likely that the machine is going to be okay and that you can just loosen some bolts up and put those pins back in. But while you're running it, now you're relying on all the bolts and everything to hold it in place. There is no positive holding force from those pins. So it's like a double-edged sword. Like on the one hand, I get what they're saying, and I'm like, oh, I really like that. But on the other hand, I'm like, man, I don't want to question if my turret's moved
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
those pins
that's
aren't in there.
exactly.
Have you considered not crashing?
I mean, yeah, that's the best solution.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I will say I have seen both of the Haas machines we have at the day job. Both of them have eaten OD thread gauges and not completely foobarred the turret.
Well, I was just wondering on your twin spindle turrets, it sounds like you've crashed them a couple times. So I didn't know if you left those pins in because like after you crash it a few times, you're gonna waller out those pins and they're not gonna be alignment anyways.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that machine, because we just call out the service tech for that. They always come out and do it.
Okay. That's what made me think that maybe someone was pulling those pins or not. But because like if you don't have those pins in there, or if you crash it so much that they're damaged, then you have to manually align everything, and you can't use
Yeah.
the pins anyways.
And it's also a European design machine versus an Asian design
True.
machine, so that causes a bit of difference.
Yeah, and I don't know if that pin thing's universal. It might not be universal. It might just be a Doosan thing.
That's a fairly standard. I know that Nakamura's run pretty similar to that.
Okay.
At least the old one I worked on.
Fair enough. Okay, so we've talked about both your business or your personal and that other company. You mentioned earlier that there was one other place you work with.
Yeah, so my cousin has a shop that he started, just kind of machines in his garage, and now he's up to I think they got recently two more Swiss machines delivered from HGR. So I think they're going to be up to 7 Swiss machines, all running 2-part numbers, and they've been running the same 2-part numbers, I think, for 5 years now.
That's like the dream.
That's both my dream and my nightmare.
Yeah, that's. So they get the boxes of material. It's 7/16, 316, and 1/4 inch. I think it's 303. And they had, so it's like a probably 10-inch by 10-inch box full of bars. And the last delivery was like 40 boxes of them.
Wow.
Basically an entire mill run of the material. And those machines, they're shipping something like 50,000 a month of these parts.
That's insane.
Yeah, and then they do light prototyping on an old Fadal, Quasar 5-axis, and then some old Akuma lathes.
Yeah. But what's nice is when you can get that production work and you can have it running in the background, and then you can do the job shop work and like the more complex engaging work in tandem.
Exactly, yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do over here. Is I'm trying to get that high volume, low mix with the high mix, low volume. I got to pair those two.
Yeah. Yeah, my core concept of my business is there's a lot of shops around here in Austin. You have Method Manufacturing, Reese Anderson, which they're a crazy shop with automated Hermlas and crazy stuff. But there's no training around here. Mm-hmm. So part of what I want to do is have like half the shop have old robo drills, old lathes, take on interns, take on people, and kind of be the shop that's training up people.
That'd be cool.
So trying to get some of that, like a little bit of government contracting for nice, consistent production work that I can just throw someone on, get a horizontal so they learn, oh, here's how I load parts and fixtures. Here's how I do all this. But then also have the other side of the shop with your 5-axis and your fancy stuff for getting out some of that fancy work.
Your beater machines that you don't mind people crashing.
Exactly. Yeah. But at the same time, got to have operators for those nice machines.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
You got to train people somehow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of government work, like how much have you done there? You know, you talked about getting your ITAR's certification or whatever it is. Like, talk to me about that process.
So for the government contracting, I was working with PartsBase, which they are kind of an aggregator service where they do all the Freedom of Information Acts to see historic pricing on government contracts. And it's a cost. You have to pay them their yearly fee.
Do you get work directly from them? Like, are they a prime and they sub out? Or is it just an information service?
They're just an information service.
Okay.
But you get all that historic pricing information, so you know the exact price that the military says this part's worth. And you also can see, XYZ quoted it at $200 last time. Okay, I know where I can fit in. But you have, your cage code. Then you can go into all of your different disadvantaged small business, which everybody applies for that's probably going to be listening to this. It's something like 20 million a year is the threshold.
Okay. I thought you say 20 million new shops, and I was like, that's a lot of shops.
No, it's like 20 million a year in revenue, I think.
Okay.
Or like 200 employees.
Yeah, small business.
Yeah. But then you also have like your hub zone and that kind of stuff for your historically underutilized business zone where you can apply.
I am like a mile outside of that.
Yeah, I'm
outside
fully
of one
within. Fully within. Anywhere I move in, like 3 counties surrounding me is fully within it, thankfully. But then for government work, you also have your JCP certification, which is basically just ITAR without paying the government to be saying you're ITAR certified. It's the same NIST, it's the same basically everything. Then you get a big letter from the Secretary of State, I think. It basically says, yes, you can look at unclassified controlled documents. Okay. So that's going to be that lets you see a lot of stuff that you wouldn't see otherwise with government contracting.
JCP?
Yeah, it's the Joint Certification Program.
I will be Googling that later.
Yeah, it's to go ITAR after having that was basically just paying the DDTC. I already had to go through all the steps that ITAR covers.
So what are the actual steps? This is something I want to do, so I'm curious. I haven't looked too far into it yet. It's on the list, but
well, it's a bunch of paperwork proving that you are a U.S. citizen and your business is real. That was probably the biggest struggle, was getting the government to believe that I have a machine shop in my garage.
Okay.
That took a lot of pictures and a lot of like getting out into the road, taking a picture, walking closer to the garage door.
Really?
Showing the machine in the garage. Because they want to make sure you're not just some random guy.
I mean, I basically am some random guy. Like, because I have my kind of pole barn shop. Like, would that be a problem? Do you think I could convince them of that, or?
I mean, so the road I live on is a U.S. highway, 4-lane highway, and I'm 2 minutes from the downtown of my town, and I'm just in my 2-car garage. So if I was able to get through, you'll probably be good.
Okay.
Just put a sign on the door and you'll be good.
I don't have a sign.
Well, a piece of paper.
Okay. I'll make a sign.
But yeah, then
I have
it's
a laser cutter.
The NIST certificate, the self-certification. Don't remember what it is specifically. It's like 801.
That's the one that says our servers are secure. We don't use Huawei equipment.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And you just have to have, it's through another agency that you have to have a self-tested score entered into their system.
Okay.
And from what the parts-based guy was saying, it's like that score doesn't really matter as long as you show that you're putting in the effort. And for all the documentation and that stuff, just have an LLM write it. I mean, it's all pretty bog standard boilerplate stuff. It's my recommendation for if you're trying to do like the Xometry quality management system. Just have an LLM write it up and then just edit whatever you need to edit.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So you haven't taken any direct government work yet, have you?
No,
I've
I've
gone
not.
through the SAM.gov process and done the thing.
So I'm fully ready. The part that you also have that I think gets missed is all of the packaging requirements and the all of the mil spec packing and that end of it that leads to questionable stuff.
Like what? What do you mean?
That's a good question. I was getting names for suppliers where I could send my parts to them and then they would do all the proper bag tag,
Really?
document the parts, because the military has very, very specific how they want the parts bagged, tagged, and all of that.
Is this just a standard you can look up? Is it just like, mil spec
Yeah, it's a mil spec
10.12.
standard.
Whatever? Okay.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's something I need to get into more, because I would love to be able to kind of like as Subtract, we can kind of handle that overhead for our shops, and then just have the shops make the parts, and we can handle the inspection and the packaging, and kind of become a subject matter expert on that, and then have the shops make the parts.
Yeah,
and not be their headache.
Yeah, that would be extremely helpful for that whole world of government contracting work.
Yep, we're not ready for that yet, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
So we've heard you talk a lot about lathe work that you've done. You also do a lot of mill work. What about your 5-axis work? Have you done what kind of crazy machines have you run on the 5-axis world?
So 5-axis world, I've only really ran that UMC 500 at the first, or UMC 750. It was even before the 500 was out.
Mm-hmm.
And that machine...
That was the old one with the heavy door.
Oh yeah, with the heavy door, and they had the interlock unbolted, which was the dumbest choice you could make on that machine, because the door was so heavy it would walk itself open.
Oh.
So you just start spraying coolant everywhere.
Oh man.
And that was the one with the coolant tank built into the casting.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no cleaning out the tank, none of that.
Oh
so
man.
Yeah, that machine, the couple parts they had me run there, I prototyped the door stop for the 737 MAX for the bathrooms. So the little door stop that mounts to the floor is a fully surfaced 5-axis part.
That's cool.
That is really cool.
Ran 2 of them at a time with real thin tabs.
Nice.
So changing subjects here for a second. One of the reasons I wanted to bring you on the podcast is because I have seen ads for your shop. And one, they look incredibly professional. I was very impressed with them. And 2, I wanted to know, I guess the first part's not a question, that's just a compliment. But my question then is, how are those working for you? Like, are you getting work through those? Are they worth the money? What made you decide to do those, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera?
So this kind of segues into how you need to network with people and be willing to talk, especially with people outside of the machining world. So I got reached out on LinkedIn by a guy who was ex-SpaceX, who basically he was the one signing all the checks to get all of the Texas SpaceX manufacturing built. So he reached out and was like, hey, I offer consulting services. Do you need anything? It's like, yeah, sure, we'll schedule a talk. I'm kind of early in the business. And he's like, okay, well, we can do your marketing. We'll take a percentage of any work that comes in through the market, through our marketing, and we'll work with guys, figure it out. I have to cover the marketing budget. But most of my recent Instagram posts or the advertisements, it's all going through them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So has it paid off?
So far, we put in, because the first ad was just a very broad, just to kind of see what we could get. And it's interesting that you would even be seeing the ads because it was only targeting Texas.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was only targeting like Austin, San Antonio, Houston, and that was it. So obviously Meta was throwing them out a little further. But so far, we put in about $500 or $400 of budget, and I've already got $1,000 worth of work, and I think we got like 20 or 30 leads out of it.
Okay. $1,000 gross, like top line revenue?
Yeah, top line revenue.
Okay.
So not
So,
crazy good. I
yes.
quoted about $15,000 worth of work directly from the ads. But yeah,
And
meta ads have been much greater return on investment versus like Google ads or
Yeah.
and
simple ads like that.
and when did you start the ads rolling? Like, how long have they been going for you to generate that kind of?
So we were only running the ads for 2 weeks,
Oh, okay.
and that was it. We're just about to kick off the next round here soon, and we're gonna really heavily target the defense and semiconductor industry so that they're much more targeted ads for for the local sources.
Your SEO is good. When I search for your name, you are the top 3 results. Your website, and then your Instagram, and then your LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And then we start to get stuff about prickly pears. But
Yeah, which is, I honestly don't know how the SEO is so good. One of the guys I work with has his own side hustle, and he is incredibly jealous that I have all the extra buttons under my website on Google, or at least he said I did at some point, like directly to the pages, because that's not something you just get.
can I give you some advice?
Yeah.
Work on your website before you do any more ads.
So the ads do not push to the website you get to from Google.
Okay.
Right now. Yeah, they're pushing to a subdomain that is
Oh,
much more
interesting.
professionally built.
What is that? Do you know off the top of your head?
So if you go to my Instagram, it
Okay.
is, I believe it's the link in the Instagram. I think
Yeah,
it's getaquote.pricklypearprototypes.com.
because your website is so important if you're doing paid ads. That's why we
Oh,
haven't run
yes.
any for Subtract yet. Is the website's? Oh yeah, it looks a lot better.
Yeah.
Are those testimonials real?
Most of them, yeah. I think actually all
Okay.
of them are. I know one was
So
direct straight from an email.
yeah, okay, yeah. This website is more than serviceable. Okay,
Yeah.
I was
Rebuilding the
very
website.
curious how that advertising was working for you.
Yeah, we had tried to run kind of like a special where you could get save like material cost. Didn't see a single return on that ad.
Hmm.
Like an end of month special trying to get people, but just the general got a lot of people and it pushed. It was probably 50-50 of people that ended up on my website going through that request a quote versus through the subdomain.
Interesting.
So people are seeing the name, but then later on getting to the website.
Yeah, because that's how ads work a lot of the times. Is they're seeing it on their phone, and then later they're going, where was that place I saw? I need those parts made, and then they Google you.
Yeah.
Um, your branding is really good. Like I like your little cactus guy,
Yeah. Paid a guy on
and your
Fiverr a couple years ago.
your ads were really well put together. For the machining world sucks at advertising.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the things where it's like I've not been just calling up local shops or calling up local places and just cold calling. I've been kind of trying to just experiment with these ads because my machine, all my bills are paid and all of that. So
Yep.
it's kind of that be a little bit of the tester to see how some of this stuff works out.
Yeah.
So would you consider the work that you're doing in your shop more of a side hustle rather than like a full time gig?
Right now, it's definitely a side hustle, but because of this networking, I ended up getting involved with the guys out at Prototown, just 10 minutes north of me, which is a crazy hardware startup. And those guys, I was just out there Friday and they took a bunch of business cards to go out. They're going back out to San Francisco. So they're going to start heavily pushing my name out in all the startup world out there.
Nice.
So that's where I'm kind of right at that like hairy edge of just about to be having way more work than I can even think of handling.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. That's and they're heavily pushing for me to move my shop out to Prototown. The founders were kind of asking very pointed questions of exactly how many amps of three phase I would need. because they're currently tapped out of the 1 megawatt that they are bringing out there.
Oh my.
Do they have like a co-working space, or they just want to put you in their shop? Or
So the goal of Prototown is basically to build a city for manufacturing and hardware development,
interesting.
kind of in lieu of like Shenzhen, China.
Yeah.
So they have 500 acres right now, and they're looking to expand up to a full square mile of land in total. And right now they have a giant, I think it's 20 or 30,000 square foot. It's an inflatable building
Huh.
that they're building out, and they've got a couple insane companies right now doing their prototyping in there. There's a plywood mock-up right now for a 8-foot diameter, about 18-inch thick. It's going to be a disc of stainless steel, hollow, that's going to spin at 1,500 RPM.
Oh my.
For desalinization. Pulling the salt out of water.
That is cool.
Yeah. And there's companies all over the world coming out there to put in their shop. It's kind of scary because you're walking around and there's excavators running everywhere. Nobody's running them. They're all autonomous.
Oh, really?
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
Because Bedrock Automation Robotics is out there doing all their testing, and they retrofit excavators, bulldozers, and all that. So yeah, it's just autonomous stuff going on. Yeah.
That is super cool.
Because yeah, right now I think they're putting in 6 more 20,000 square foot buildings.
Gosh.
And those are all accounted for already.
It kind of makes me wish my shop was somewhere cooler. There's not a lot in Muncie.
Yeah, and I didn't even know about this place until 2 months ago. And it's 10 minutes up the road from me.
Yeah.
It's, wild. Yeah, being on a fly at the wall there was interesting, like hearing all the stories and projects.
Yeah. Well, speaking of flies on the wall, let's take a second here to do our Patreon plug. So we have Patreon members. Sometimes we even bring them onto the podcast. Sometimes we hire them, like Jacob, who does our editing. And I want to give a shout out to Jacob. The last podcast we recorded, we had some technical difficulties, and the audio clips were a giant mess. And so Jacob had to go through and hand edit everything together, and it took him many hours.
Oh, wow.
Thank you, Jacob, for fixing that. I would have probably either just not published the episode or published it in its terrible state. So, because remember all the lag we had, Harrison?
I do.
Yep, so shout out to Jacob for fixing that. Our Patreons all get access. Any paid Patreon gets access to our Discord server, which has become a really awesome community. And they also get early access to all of our episodes. You can also join at a free tier where you can access our weekly Q&A, which we'll get to in a minute here. We have a new Patreon, Christian O. Thank you for joining us, Christian O. And our $10 a month and above members are Stephen M., A Dead Horse, Daniel R., James at Moultrie Made, Ryan at Strato Manufacturing, Austin W., Kyle at Kursk Machine, Devin at Sinister Machine Works, James N., Ben at Prickly Pear Prototypes, we know him, Cam S., Shep at Alderson Prototyping, Jacob at Zon Precision, Jason S., Joshua H., Christian Z., Freaky Climber, Prescott at 1Z, 2Z Systems, Trey V., Guy L., Alexander B., Scott Designed the Everything, Jamie at JSpec Engineering, Chris at Zyke Precision, EJ at Nocturnal Welding, Chris at Thought Bomb Design, and as ever, Jake Brownson. Also, shout out to Jamie. He had an episode. He had an episode on With Intolerance, which was a lot of fun to listen to. At one point, he did resort to one of his spiels that he gives on his own podcast, the Lone Machines podcast, and I thought that was funny. First question, Kyle at Kursk Machine. For AJ, what accounting software did you implement? Did you evaluate several? And what made you choose the one you went with? How was converting over from spreadsheets? And is there anything you do different looking back at this point? I guess I'll answer this one. So I went to a software called Manager. The website's like manager.io.
Oh, hey, I use that too.
You use that too?
Yeah.
The reason I went with that one is because they have a server edition, and we already have server infrastructure, so we're just hosting it ourselves. And there's a one-time fee. looking at the different softwares, I didn't really get the impression that there was that much different between them. And so if there's not going to be that much to differentiate any of the softwares, go with the one that has the one-time lifetime fee. And actually, technically that fee is kind of optional because you can have a evaluation license forever. So I'll wait a couple months, and if I like it, then I'll pay for it. If I don't, then I'll stop using it. So
If you're not using the server version, it's absolutely free. If you just have it all locally on one single computer, fully free.
Yep. The desktop version, free forever. They don't ask you for any money. They have a cloud version that's $60 a month that we're not doing. And then we have our own server edition, which they just say, if you use this, just buy a year of the cloud, basically. And that'll cover the cost of it for us. So I appreciated that kind of transparency and openness. I like owning my own data. We have the server infrastructure now through Subtract. So it was pretty easy. The only complaint I have about it, which I did not catch during my initial testing, is you cannot upload PDF files when you like make a new entry. It has to be a JPEG. So like if you want to attach a like emailed receipt, like a McMaster receipt to entry, you have to convert that to JPEG. Which I'm not missing anything here, am I, Ben? Since you said you use it.
No, not that I can think of.
How do you handle that?
I'm not using it that fancy yet. I'm using it more just for ERP job management quoting side.
Oh, interesting.
For making all those fancy, nice looking documents.
Which, ironically, we're not using it for at all. I'm just using it for the accounting stuff. So I think that answers the question. But I've been slowly getting caught up with that. Basically, I have to do like the last year's worth of accounting because I have to go through and put all the entries in there. And so I've just been kind of methodically going through and entering all my stuff. Basically, so I'll be ready for 2025 taxes. Some of my stuff is rather a mess right now, because I didn't do a good job earlier on of separating Audacity and Subtract because I thought they were going to be the same business entity. And then they became not the same business entity, and they are separate entities. And so I have to kind of go backwards through some of my stuff and separate those out. And talking to Harrison, was that today? Just today, I'm going to set up Taps and Patience as its own entity in there too, which will be much easier because we have like 16 transactions a year. But I just kind of need to separate that out a little bit better. I wish I'd done this a lot sooner. My accountant, who is also my father, was kind of very anti-accounting software for a business that was the size of mine. And probably for the first year, that was true. His argument was it adds a lot of overhead that you just don't need to be doing. And, just kind of having a folder of receipts and, tallying them up and having a spreadsheet is good enough, and to just kind of focus on the work. But I think we got more complicated too fast for that method. My dad comes from a background of not-for-profits and kind of all like people management kind of organizations where I think the amount of transactions going in and out is much less. Whereas, if you're a job and you do if you're a job shop and you do 200 jobs a year, at a minimum, every job is going to have an order of materials and like an order for tooling. So there's all of a sudden like, 400 transactions at a bare minimum. And, and then to make matters worse, my business is convoluted with Subtract and Audacity being a vendor for Subtract and like the YouTube channel and I'm taxes wise a difficult company. So I wish we had done this a long time ago. All right, next question. Freaky Climber. For Harrison, you stated in the last episode you were going to do passivation in-house. What process are you doing, nitric or citric? How are you running your process? Who are you sourcing your supplies from? And have you done process validation to ensure that you're processing your customers' parts to the ASTM or AMS standards?
So we've been doing passivation in-house for several months now. And so I don't remember exactly where we got all of our stuff from. but we are doing a citric, not a nitric bath. And when we got our supplies, we had all the paperwork from them for how they recommend doing their process, the correct ratios to mix up, and all that fun stuff. And so we just have two ultrasonic cleaners that we use that have heaters installed in them. And so you have to heat it up to a certain temperature. We put them in there for a certain amount of time. And then you have a cleaning stage and then the actual acid stage. And the cleaning stage is very important. And cross contamination is a big deal. So the very first time I ran those, we were not rinsing well enough between them, and I ended up ruining a batch of parts because of that.
Oh no.
But since then, we have really upped our rinsing between stages game, and so I have a dunk tank that I use that I'll stick the parts in and I'll shake them through, and then I'll run them over clean water. Um, and so we have a lot more robust system. In fact, that's the first system that I actually went down, and I used the combination of what the instructions said to the kind of the process how I've adapted it to our shop, and I actually created like a 3-page written document on how to
Nice.
like do everything from start to finish. And I was able to hand that off to an employee, and he was able to take it and do the whole process from start to finish without me getting involved, just going off the paperwork that I supplied him. As for validation, we did find, I don't remember if it was the AS Tim E or AMS, but we found a documentation on how to properly test to make sure your passivation was a success. And I'd have to go figure out what that document was. Weston found it, but it mentioned like 3 or 4 different methods for testing your parts. And the method that we ended up settling on, you have to take your part and you put it in boiling or near boiling distilled water, and it has to sit in there for a minimum of 30 minutes. And then after you do that, you have to pull it out, and then you have to set it on the counter for a minimum of an hour. Or no, once you've done that, you have to pull the pot off the water and let it cool down in the water from the near boiling point for a minimum of an hour up to 3, depending on how fast it goes down. And then once it goes down, you got to pull it out of the water and set it on the counter and let it air dry from that point, and then for a certain amount of time, and then you can check for rust. And you have to do that. You have to do one part per uh, lot. So if you have a lot of parts that go through, you have to test you have to test one part out of every single lot that goes through the process. Um, and so we're doing that method, and we talked to the medical company because their parts require all that certification stuff. If we outsourced it, they would require an actual certification from the supplier, but because it's an in-house process and we submitted the process that we are following for passivation and the testing that we're doing, we actually don't have to provide a material cert because it's an in-house process. So we don't actually have to provide a passivation cert because we're doing it all in-house. So um but it's a really simple process. The biggest thing is PPE, making sure you're protected well, and making sure everything is clean, and then obviously you're testing at the end to make sure that it was a success. But I mean, like we were outsourcing that process, and it came out to like an average of like $1 a part, and I can passivate all the parts in like a day. And so we were sending out 500 to 1,000 parts per batch, and so it's like I can make an extra $500 to $1,000 just by passivating in house, and I can do it all in a day. And it's like, well, that just paid for everything, so I'll just do it in house because it's a lot. It's not that complicated of a process once you're set up. It's just getting all of your checks and balances in place to make sure you're not screwing things up, is a big deal. So, yeah.
Do you
Hopefully
have
that
any
answers.
input on this, Ben? Have you ever done this stuff or?
My day job passivates in house, but our parts are not near as critical as the medical, so I know our testing and that not near as crazy.
I will say we had sent out parts in the past to be nitrite passivated, and the quality that came in, they were always came back way darker than when they left. And doing the citric passivation, they come out shinier, and they almost look like they're chrome plated when they come out. And so I like the citric. It's a lot. I think it's a lot easier of a material to deal with. There's not as much caustic problems that you have to worry about from a health perspective, and the parts come out a lot shinier. So I really like it.
Yeah, I've seen that exact same result.
So, but
All right, nope, another one for me. Nick at Nixco. For AJ, how has the 100% in-process inspection and one-piece flow implementation for Subtract gone with your shops? So we do not require 100% in-process inspection and one-piece flow for our shops right now. I do that in my shop at this point, and I have been a big fan of that. It's worked really well for me. I mean, I guess you could argue that maybe I've just gotten lucky and haven't run into many major mistakes, but my process lately has, like, just my shop has run very smoothly lately following that. I'm able to catch things early, and it's just made my life easier. So it helps now that I have all that 0 point and the not a 5-axis set up, because that method is very conducive to one-piece flow, because I'm moving the whole fixture between different locations instead of removing the part from the work holding. I have definitely seen some parts that I've made with it where it made them more complicated, and it would have been easier just to like one piece flow, or excuse me, to not one piece flow, to batch work through a vise. But my, like, I don't know, my scrap rate has been way down, and the amount of time that I've wasted machining parts that are already scrap is, basically zero. I think there was one part the other day that I caught a mistake in op 1, and I finished it anyway to prove out the other operations. But, like, I don't know. I'm a big fan. I'm still that's a hill I'll die on, is one piece flow and 100% in process inspection
when possible.
When possible. And if it's not possible, you should figure out why and fix it. I have not used any of the results yet from my probing inspection macros. I still have some work to do on those. I found some kind of flaws in some of the macros where it erases all of the previous data instead of appending it. It overwrites it. So, but I've never really had a chance to like go through and test each macro and get that all really dialed in yet. So that's kind of been on the back burner, and I should get back to it, because I would love it if the machine were to do some of that in process inspection. Obviously not something I can report to the customer, but for peace of mind before moving it on, it would be really nice. So I'm happy with that one. I'm doing a part right now that would be a good one to do batch work, and it would probably be a little bit easier, but I'm doing it all as one piece flow in it came out to be 3 setups, where the first setup is like a little bit over an hour at this point. It was faster, but I made it slower. And then there's a quick op from the side, and then a quick parting op. If I had tried to do this not with a one-piece flow system, it would have been an absolute nightmare, because there's so many things that can go wrong, and it took me a little while to dial in the first piece. So this is, I'm all in on the one-piece flow and inspecting between every step.
Good deal.
All right, next question for Harrison. You mentioned how your current growth is stressful and tough to balance. I know that this can usually make it really hard to implement anything to make it easier, but what are you trying to do to make the growth more manageable?
There's not many levers that I can pull to make it more manageable other than saying no. And so as much as possible, I mean, things like ProShop are making it easier to get work through the shop. So everything that we're doing is trying to keep all 4 machines that we have running at 100% as much as possible. Some of the things that we've done that have made a really big difference is, especially on the higher volume work, is having a computer at each machine, And so oftentimes when me and Weston are running a machine, we'll have the computer open and Weston can be doing office work while running a machine, or I could be programming the next part while running a machine. And I think actually right now I have 4 or 5 axis parts fully programmed and ready to go on one of the machines. I'm just waiting for time to slot it in. And typically I would program one part and then I would run one part, program one part, run one part. But having this mix of high volume with some or with some lower volume work and having the computer at the stage at the machine, I can keep the machine running on a part that might only run for 5 or 6 minutes, but I could be programming while it's running. So that's one thing. The CMM, we've got that up and running now, and it was a bottleneck and kind of took up a lot of time. We've got to the point now where we can put a whole tray's worth of parts on the table, and it'll run for 40 minutes. So it's trying to focus on stuff that will keep machines busy for as long as possible between when we need to go interact with it, so we can focus on other stuff. And trying to get it into a state where our employee is comfortable coming up and keeping the machine running to free up our time. And so we've got him running 2 machines, programming parts, and setting up machines in between jobs right now. And then the saying no, all of the non-important stuff, like a lot of the walk-ins and people just trying to come in and waste time, I'm getting a lot less patient with those types of things and just being like, no, that's not us. Nope, you need to go somewhere else. Nope, And so I'm trying to push away everything that is a time sucking activity that's not gonna. I'm becoming more protective of my time when I'm at the shop from distractions that pull me away from pushing forward. But yeah, no,
So this
go ahead.
This all sounds like things you're doing to keep your head above water and not really looking forwards to kind of solve some of these problems before they happen. And I think that's more what Dylan is looking at here.
Well, that's one reason we pulled the trigger on the lathe. We don't technically have enough capacity to buy the lathe today, but there's enough work coming down the pipeline that if we don't buy the machine, we are going to be up a creek. And we got to get it set up and get it up and running before that work starts funneling in. And so we're preemptively trying to do that. We're trying to get 400 amps to the shop. We're trying to add on to the building. We're trying to do a lot of different things to increase our capacity. We might potentially need to hire another employee in the very near future. We're looking at automation. We're more than likely going to end up automating 1, if not 2 machines before the end of the year, which will also take away some of our time to need to manage machines and free up some of our employees' time potentially. And so there's a lot of other larger forward-looking projects that we're working on or planning for at the very least. Our biggest bottleneck is cash flow. And specifically right now, we went through a period of about 6 weeks where we were relatively slow for this year. And part of that is because one of my customers said they were going to release work and they never released it, and they still haven't released it. And I was expecting that work to kind of fill in that time. And so now they're talking about releasing. So now I've got 3 or 4 major customers all planning on major releases either this week or next. And so I'm not sure how I'm going to manage that because I don't want to turn anyone away, but having that much work all hit simultaneously, we'll have to see how it shakes out. I'll have to play that by ear, depending on capacity, what machines are available, and I might be outsourcing some stuff. I don't know. So,
yeah, I look at your business and I look at what you guys are doing, and part of me is like, they are growing too fast, and I think you guys do need to intentionally slow down for a bit.
Mhm.
But at the same time, talking to you regularly, seeing your shop, like, it doesn't feel like you guys are super overwhelmed yet.
Yeah,
Um,
we're
and like your, from what I understand, your work-life balance is shockingly good.
yes.
Better than mine, and you are way busier of a shop and a person than I am. And you guys seem to be very well disciplined on, this is when I get into the shop, this is when I leave the shop. I'm not going to work on Saturdays. Like, you guys do that better than anyone else in this community that I know of, other than people who have a full-time job in someone else's shop. And honestly, a lot of the times better than them. So
Yeah.
I don't
I
know. I can make an argument both ways.
Well, I look at how busy we are right now, and I haven't pulled an all-nighter where I'm there till 2 a.m. in over a year or two. I don't think I've done that since I've moved to this shop. I I rarely work Sundays now. In fact, today was probably the first Sunday I've worked, and it was only a half day in many months. And so while we're our volume of parts is growing drastically and the amount of work we're pushing through our shop is growing a lot, my time dedication to the shop has actually been going down, even though the stress levels of managing it all have kind of gone up. So, it, you know, I feel more stressed, but I also feel more comfortable taking on that work.
Do you have like any time set aside a week, or just time that you manage to fit in, where you do get to get out of the shop for an hour and work on the business instead of in the business?
Not really, at least not in the traditional sense. I feel like I'm always fitting in 5 minute, 10-minute chunks where we start planning something in between the machines running. Like I might have it where we don't need to work on the machines for, 20, 30 minutes. So me and Weston will have a conversation about what do we want to do next? What do we want to focus on next? And then we'll go back into it. And so improvements is not something that I set aside time for. It's something that happens naturally and constantly. So I don't have a time where I'm only focused on improvements. I'm always focused on improvements in a way because it's something that's always going in the background of all the other tasks that I have going on. Which, people aren't great multitaskers, so that sounds worse than it probably is. But I mean, me, Weston, and our employee Ben is constantly looking around the shop and going, "What can we improve?" And I know that you probably can from touring our shop. I'm sure you probably got the impression that like there's not much that we don't try to improve as soon as we think about it. So
Yeah.
like it's like even though it sounds like we're focused on too many things, if you look at the shop, things are constantly evolving. People who come in there and then like don't come in for 6 months and then they come back in, they're like, this is completely different. Like you've added so much.
Yeah.
So
I don't worry about you on the shop floor level at all. Like, your shop is expertly run. I worry on the like entrepreneur level, because it doesn't seem like you're taking time there. Like, you don't take an hour to go to a coffee shop and, sit down with no distractions and kind of go, okay, is this business going where I want it? Like, what are some big term or long term big goals that we need to do?
I mean,
Can I
we
add one quick high level question to this?
go for it.
Yeah, yeah.
How many years do you think you have left actually running and setting up a machine until you
Ooh.
are at the point in the business where you have someone else setting up the machine and running it, and you and Weston are fully focused just on the business,
I
actually
probably
hitting the green button?
Yeah, I see that happening. It kind of depends on how fast we can train up our current employee. He's kind of a testing bed for how hands off can we become, how quickly can we train him up. So he's kind of a testing bed for that. So I don't have an exact timeline, but if I had to put a number to it, I would say probably around 4 to 5 years. I think we need to get into another building where we're not quite as cramped, and maybe one or two more employees, and then that'll get to a point to where we can become more hands off in the office. And so I definitely see that happening. That's everything that we do with the goal of getting to that point. Um, so that is a goal that we've always focused on, is how do we become more hands off. Um, so yeah, like I'm not so focused on the day-to-day operations that we're not thinking about that big of a picture. Because I mean, if you look at our shop where it is today, there is nothing that is new in the shop that we didn't plan for when we bought the building. And we've been in there for a year and a half, and we've had insane growth because we had a vision for what we could fit in that building. There's not a machine on the floor that we did not plan on getting at some level. There might be a different brand. It might be a different, uh, you know, well, it's really the Doosan's the only one that's a different brand, but like there could have been a lot of different machines that slotted into that Doosan spot where we had, mill here, 5-axis here, this here, this here. We had our CMM room planned out from the very beginning. Like we had a high level picture of what would be the most efficient setup for the shop when we bought the building. And we've been following that roadmap, which has allowed us to run as fast as we have been able to. Because like we've been following a pre-planned trajectory of that building from day one. We had everything in our heads or on CAD for the layout. And we've been, if you look at it, I haven't really had to advertise and go get out customers. We've been building something, word gets around, and we're picking up new customers. I don't have to go market. I'm collecting people faster than I can get capacity to continue. So like my problems might be a little bit different than what most shops probably are dealing with on the single man level. And part of the reason I've been able to do that is because of my partnership with my cousin, because I'm more of the daily operations. He's more of the business management. And that combination means that like a lot of the struggles that some of you guys have in your shops with the business side, quite frankly don't connect with as much because Weston shares that mental burden on his side. And so he takes some of that burden of running a business off me and allows me to focus and run and keep the actual day-to-day stuff going while he's focused on making sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, and like everything is like from the business side is flowing smoothly. Invoices are sent out, quotes are sent out, we're making sure we're getting paid. Like he's managing so much of that stuff on his side. So that partnership, you know, what's the best analogy I can think of it is, if you take like a horse that's designed to pull a heavy, like a drafting horse, it can pull, they say, a drafting horse can pull like a 7,000 pound cart. When you add a second drafting horse, how much can it pull? It can pull 28,000 pounds. That's way more than double what one could do on its own. That's because the combined force of the two, they can actually pull more than if it was just one by itself. And that's kind of what I feel like between me and Weston. That's why we're able to grow and run as fast as we are.
I think that was a good answer.
So, did I beat that horse? Is it dead?
I think we beat that dead horse, or we beat it with a dead horse.
Sorry, that was a long monologue, but like,
it was the perfect answer I was looking for.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot going on, and my stress levels is high, but it's a lot of puzzle pieces that we've been planning for moving into the frame all at the same time. Like none of the stuff that's happening is stuff that's a surprise. It's just a surprise at the speed.
Yeah. No, I think you guys are, again, like one of the better managed shops that like kind of in the instant machinist community. Like you guys do a really good job of handling it. And you're still small. Like there's a lot of bigger shops in the community that have had more time to mature. But like I don't know.
We're maturing very, very fast, and it brings challenges, but they're good challenges. Like, I might be stressed, but it's an excited stressed. It's moving to the next stage. I mean, like, I had this conversation with someone the other day. We've still been in the garage shop longer than we've been in this shop. We still own the Tormach longer than we've owned any of these other machines. To
Yeah.
put that in perspective, like, the Tormach is still the machine we have owned for the longest stretch of time. So I think the lathe is just about to pass it, though. So because we bought the lathe like a year and a half after the Tormach, so the lathe is getting close to passing the Tormach. But the Tormach is still the machine we have owned for the longest stretch of time, and that's the machine we've run the longest still. Because the lathe, realistically, even when we were at the old shop, we hardly that lathe has been very underutilized for its whole life. It's just now getting to the point where we're getting enough lathe work to justify it, and the work that we're getting justifies a dual spindle. The current lathe can't keep up with it.
So Ben, how do you think about growth? How are you preparing for growth?
So I'm in a very interesting spot because right now, because I've worked in shops, I think I've got 7 guys that I could hire tomorrow if I needed to. And that's everywhere from basic operator to could manage the shop. So I'm in the spot where if I start getting explosive growth, I'm probably just going to end up, like, if I'm going to move out to Proto Town, I'll probably end up buying 5 old Fadals just to have a 60-30 machine, a 40-20. And then I know that I can then put Joel or Tyler and they can program it, run it, set it up. They can get it done. And then I can be going out, talking to the medical companies, talking to the defense contractors, getting like a UMC 500 with a gimbal solution to then kind of do some of that fancy work while still having those guys there. And it's heavily documenting is probably the most important thing I've seen. I was in charge of document control at one shop, and we could have someone walk up from the street and turn a machine on, load the program, and hit go and run a part because we had documented everything so thoroughly. We even had an exact document for how we mopped the floor because the owner had a very specific method, which worked really good, but everything was highly documented. You could bring people in. And one of the things he instilled in me was everybody else can leave except the owner. Anybody could quit tomorrow if they wanted. So you can't plan your business around people, but you also have to make a good company where people want to work. And that
I
was
would
one of the
argue
things
that
we did.
I would argue it's probably most important that the owner can walk away.
But the
maybe not
thing
most.
is that when you're in day-to-day running, everybody else could leave and you could be the only one sitting there going, well, guess I got to go out there and run something.
Yeah, but if everyone packs up and leaves, I would argue you're running your company very poorly.
Yeah. But
Like,
his solution was more don't let your company fully revolve around one employee.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Never
yes,
have
definitely.
a linchpin employee, which I've seen at plenty of the medium-sized legacy shops, we'll call them.
I would definitely not want a linchpin employee, but making it to where everything is so documented you can grab anyone and throw them into any position, or plan for a mass migration of
Yeah.
people, a high volume of turnover. I feel like that's attacking the problem from the wrong mindset because someone got burned, rather than creating an environment where people want to stay and have good training procedures to bring people into, where it's kind of a where they
Yeah.
like AJ said, where the owner can walk away and the machine just runs.
Yeah.
There's a balance there somewhere.
Yeah.
Where you need both.
Mhm.
Like, you
Because
need
I'm thinking more like a 20-man shop. to
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
the owner doesn't even see the shop floor. He doesn't know what's running, what's setting up. He's
Yeah.
only focused on the business.
Now, if you guys grow your businesses, do you guys ever want to get away from actually running machines?
I figure right now, if depending on trajectory, I might only have 2 or 3 years left of actually running a machine at my business. And I'll probably just take one of the most broken robo drills and move it back into my garage to run stuff on the side for fun.
Yeah, especially with Subtract, I should not be running parts. Even now, me running parts for Subtract is probably, I don't want to say a waste of my time because that's not quite true, but like um I am at best an average machinist. I'm good at programming. I'm good at some like little niche machining, but I've never been that great of a machinist. I never will be. So me making the parts is not what I should be spending time on. I should, if anything, be making videos, advertising, marketing. That's where my time's most valuable. And I see it, probably even faster than 2 years, where unless I want to, I won't be making parts.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little different in that sense than both of you guys. Like, I don't want to get away from like running shop parts on the shop floor. Like, I always want to be connected to that because that enjoyment is what got me into machining in the first place. Like, I enjoy running machines. I enjoy programming. I enjoy solving the complex problems, which is one reason I enjoy having Weston because he takes care of all the other crap.
That's what I was just going to kind of add on to that is you're more of the shop floor manager in the
Yeah.
business, where Weston is the front of house manager.
Yeah, but I'm also the salesman and the
Yeah.
I'm the community relationship guy as well because Weston's very introverted. He doesn't like dealing with people, but he'll deal with all the paperwork on the back end.
Yeah.
So, which is nice.
So would hiring a salesman help alleviate some of your kind
Not
of
really.
let you focus just on shop floor versus
I don't do a whole lot of it. I'm just really good at building relationships with those that order parts from us.
yeah.
And so I have a really good social interaction. A lot of these people become, I would call them friends, but in the business context of friends. And so um, it doesn't really take up that much of my time
Yeah.
to like pick up the phone and check in once a week or so to see what parts are coming down the pipeline, what's new in their world, or maybe once every other week. I try not to bug them too much. It kind of depends on what's going on in our shop. And the only time I really like to bug people is if they say they have a big project that's going to be released and it doesn't release when they say it's going to. Then I might go bug them a little bit and be like, "Hey, what's going on?" So, but I like to at least check in with them once every 2 weeks just to see what's going on. And we've been staying very busy, so I don't really need the work. So
So Ben, you talked about, buying a bunch of Fadals and bringing in some friends that you have existing relationships with and they're proficient machinists. What's keeping you from doing that?
Right now, well, so up until about, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, I was working day job, night job, and my weekend. So I was doing 5 11s and then however many hours I was getting on the weekends. So that was just a big offload of work, but that also got some money in the bank to just kind of make machine payments, have some marketing budget, buy up my tooling library, kind of go a little bit slow. But the biggest thing for me has just been the marketing, trying to make phone calls, make those connections. That's tougher to do when you're still at a day job
Yep.
because I don't really I still want to dedicate my time at the day job to the day job because I don't want to burn that bridge. So trying to market and trying to do that has been kind of the pain point in terms of growth. But yeah, it's just it's one of those where It's going to be a Canon fuse, most likely, is what it feels like.
So you've started out with a used machine, and it sounds like that's maybe all the way paid off. You have pretty low overhead, I would assume.
Yeah, it's not paid off, but it's a super low payment, so it's no big deal.
Yeah. So and you mentioned buying used machines. Are you pretty comfortable with the used machines and the problems that they can bring?
Oh, yeah. There's, at the end of the day, more spindles means more parts. And let's say I buy 7 robo drills. My plan is one of those robo drills is going to be down every single week. So no matter what my capacity, one's always going to be down. If they're all working perfectly, we're good. But that used capacity just builds up the capacity, lets me get all the processes in place. More machines and more. One of the things I've seen at a lot of the smaller shops it's always keeping up with the Joneses. Got to get the next fancier machine. Where when you go to the big machine shops, Cox Manufacturing down in San Antonio, they ship 1 million parts a week.
Gosh.
And they've got like 50 Tornos DT26s. They've got old Brown and Sharp multi-spindles, Guildmeister, got big old Eurotechs, but they've got 30 of each of these machines because they wanted to keep adding more and more capacity, not just more capability. So that's where I kind of see get the automated 5-axis, but also get the 2 used vertical mills. Because that 5-axis, it's more overhead on the shop floor. The used verticals, they're going to be slow, they're going to break down. But I can have one guy running all 3 of those machines versus just being stuck at just one horizontal loading parts all day, all night for production. Now, I have prototypes in my name, which kind of throws all that why is he talking production, but I'm more from the production world.
That's an interesting mindset. It's a little different than mine because I've never felt comfortable throwing bodies or machines at the problem. And so my goal is, yes, to get the nice new shiny machine. And yes, it does come with a lot of overhead. But I don't really have a question from the Doosan of the machines just run and I don't have to fight maintenance issues. The Doosan was a misunderstood machine and we didn't treat it the way it should have been treated. It's the nicest way to put it.
Yeah, there's some backstory to the DN Solutions. One of our local repair guys that we bring in, he gave me a little bit of that scoop when the DN Solution changeover happened.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it was Doosan had to sell the machining department because they bought Bobcat for the excavators. Gotcha. So you went from Doosan, who had this strong background in it, to now DN, who wants to do their own thing.
Yeah.
So that changeover's being a little shaky.
Yeah. Well, the machine, it's a good machine, but I won't go into that. We've beaten that horse.
We had
we've day beaten job that machine with a dead horse.
Yeah.
My day job, we bought a DNM 4000, their little tiny one.
Mm-hmm.
And when you tap a part on the vise, it sounds hollow.
Yeah.
And the machine weighs about 1,000 pounds less than my robo drill.
Well, the SVM that we have, when it gets harmonics, the whole machine vibrates.
Yeah.
And sounds horrible. And so,
which I'm used to running robo drills, and that's just what they do.
Yeah. But like both my UMC and my VF3 don't have that, running similar feeds and speeds and cuts.
Yeah.
And I would argue that they are probably less rigid. And so I don't know if that's a sign that it's more rigid, if it's more vibraty, or if it's less rigid. Like I don't know how that works.
It's
so
50-50.
What'd you say, AJ?
Dampening.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't seem to dampen very well at all. So
All right, going on to our last question here, which I guess is also for me. This is also from Dylan at With Intolerance. With places like SendCutSend offering machining services and Hadrian/Datum offering higher end outsourcing, what is Subtract doing to differentiate themselves in the marketplace and carve out their niche? That is a very good question, because this is something that we are still kind of trying to figure out. And I don't think we will be growing too fast until we do really get that nailed down. When I first started working on the idea of Subtract, I wanted to do what SendCutSend was doing now and be kind of a more general purpose shop that kind of ignored the difficulties of the higher end work and focused on making parts that were good, but not trying to, do the shop that, or not be the shop that was doing both the cheap, larger volume parts, or, the, how do I word this? I didn't want to be the aerospace shop. I wanted to be the shop that was, making one-off jigs and fixtures for, whatever's machine shop. Then SendCutSend announced that they were doing what they were doing. And I really don't want to compete with SendCutSend because they are very good at what they do. And so that kind of pushed us to wanting to go to the higher end world. And except we don't really have the competency right now to be doing, rocket parts or stuff for NASA. We're not there yet either. And so we're kind of in this in-between stage.
I can get you in talks with the guy that's building the world's largest quadcopter.
That'd be cool.
It'll have a 5-ton capacity.
Oh my goodness.
That is rather large. So what has worked well for us so far, and this may be where we end up going, is basically making parts for businesses that serve other customers. That's probably a terrible way to word it, but a lot of our work has come from other machine shops that do need a jig or a fixture or whatever, or companies that make custom machines and automation solutions that they sell to other people, where basically what they need is something fairly quick, something reasonably priced, and a good reliable service. So not super high end, crazy tolerance, aerospace work. We'll leave that to like Josh Hacko down there in Australia. Not brackets and part-shaped objects like SendCutSend, but kind of somewhere in between, with a focus on serving other companies in the manufacturing community and kind of in our world. But I don't know. And when I figure this out, we'll probably do really well. We haven't gotten that far. Our custom ERP stuff is really, really close. I was playing with a pre-production build the other day that will automate all of our quoting and stuff. That's kind of that's one of 2 steps we have left before we start really, really pushing into marketing and advertising. The other step is we need to improve our website, where our website right now is fine. Scott built it very quickly, and he did an excellent job for the time that we gave him. But it needs a lot of refinement. We need to sort out stuff like A/B testing and just all the infrastructure to really start driving ads. I was against paid advertising a lot, but I'm now kind of realizing it's something that we need to get good at here for Subtract. But basically, long story short, right now where we're aiming is other machine shops that have some work they need to outsource. They get in that job that has 20 pieces and they can do 19 of them really well, and they need someone to knock out that last one. Or people who are building custom equipment, automation services, assembly lines, etc., for other customers, and they just need a good, reliable vendor. So somewhere in between the highest end and lowest end. Will that be where we end up in a year from now? Probably not, but I don't know.
Enough.
I don't know is the answer.
I have a question for Ben. after looking at your website.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So after looking at your website, you have frequently asked questions. What is your quoting and turnaround times? Single part quote, typically within 12 hours. Quoting packets, typically within 48. Prototype turnaround as fast as 3 days after material sourcing. And we also support rush jobs when feasible. So my question to you for that is, how are you quoting your parts so fast? Um, and what does a standard turnaround look like? And how's that different from rush? So if you can do as fast as 3 days, what does rush, how does rush play into that? Same day? 2 day?
Yeah. Well, quoting's an easy answer. Toolpath.
Okay. So you're
That's
using
the way.
Toolpath?
Yeah, toolpath, and then just enter in some information into a spreadsheet to do my magic to the numbers. The rush jobs, that's probably just me kind of thinking about expedited jobs from previous places where someone, bigger company, parts I've already made that aren't necessarily prototypes.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, hey, we need these parts by Friday. Can you do it? And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, well, here's the price plus here's the $2,000 expedite fee.
So, but if you can do parts as fast as 3 days, is 3 days considered rush or not?
That's a good question.
That's kind of what I was getting at.
I don't have an answer to that. Yeah.
Because we have a defined definition. Anything less than a week is considered rush in our shop. And so when you say as fast as 3 days, I didn't know if that was considered rush or considered we just are doing the prototype work. When you get stuff in, you could get it as fast as 3 days just because that's how fast we are.
That's probably more what it is that it's the if I'm quoting the job and it's like, hey, that's gonna take 3 days, materials on the rack, I have a machine time, 3 days. But if you specifically need it by Friday and it's an expedited job, then that's where that rush fee would come in.
Gotcha. So the
If
customer,
it's affecting my schedule, basically.
gotcha. What's your average turnaround right now? Like how fast are you turning stuff around right now?
Week or two.
Week or two.
If it's a lot of the stuff's been slightly larger parts or multi-part orders.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that stuff's just been a little longer.
And are you just filling in when you're slow with Zom work?
Yeah. And I've only been taking ITAR zometry work.
Oh, nice.
It's the other work. The ITAR is enough of a. They charge enough for it that it makes it worth it. A lot of the other work just seems too low to me.
How do you like doing the zometry work? Has it been a good source of income? You enjoy it? Or is it just kind of a necessary evil to keep things going?
So I treat zometry purely as a way to buy tooling, fixturing, and equipment. I don't think of it as like at all for paying bills or for paying any of that stuff. So for me, it's like my first zometry job paid for the vices I had. Then the next job paid for buying all my standard roughing end mills. Then the next one paid for a bead blasting setup. And then a bandsaw. And then. So I've used zometry purely just to kind of grow out the shop, but not put any money in the bank.
That's exactly how we started. Although we started with the intention of zometry making us money, but that honestly never really happened.
Yeah.
So
if I quit my job tomorrow and just did zometry, I could fully make a living. I could pay my mortgage, pay my bills, do all that just with zometry if I needed to.
Yeah.
Why aren't you on the Subtract network?
That's a good question. Honestly, just because I wanted to focus on marketing myself and getting my own name out there.
That's
But
fair.
realistically, there's no reason. Because even like my future plan for training people, zometry's a little nicer because the work doesn't matter as much. Whereas Subtract, I would probably feel a little worse throwing an intern on it. But for training people, that could be a source. But yeah, I just didn't. It was just that building myself, and because then I was still doing the 11-hour days. Didn't think I could dedicate enough time to it.
I did not go down this route, and I probably never will. But I definitely had a thought of like, what if there's subtract student that is, or I don't know what we would call it, but basically put your part on subtract student. I don't want to say no guarantee of quality, but it'll be
standards.
cheap. We'll say it'll be cheap. It'll be cheap. It goes
yeah.
to like guys with tour mocks, and like tech schools can use it to run parts and give their students some experience.
So what I will say with the tech schools, you get into some very
you
odd
do get
stuff
into weird
with
some
that
stuff
because a lot of them have agreements with local companies that they won't take paying work so that they're not competing with local machine shops. Technically, that's not a local machine shop, but gets interesting.
But just like, or maybe it's like a price tier where it's like, I don't really care about this part, just make it cheap. And
I need a part-shaped object tomorrow, but I need it a little bit better than Send Cut Send's gonna make it.
I don't know. I bet Send Cut Send does probably a better job than they should, would be my guess.
Yes.
At least right now.
I'm sure they're hitting tolerances, but they're not making sure they're hitting them.
Yeah.
Necessarily.
Is that what they're doing? Are they not doing any inspection on these, or?
I'm sure. I think it's just a standard, like ±5 across the board.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what their website says.
Yeah.
We guarantee cutting and positional tolerances of ±5 thou or better. But the or better is kind of if you get it, that's awesome.
If it comes out perfectly on size, you got lucky.
Yeah.
Or they just had loaded a new tool.
I bet they're doing a lot of or better. Like knowing the kind of the guys they have over there working on it, like they have some good team. Like
they do, but I wouldn't feel comfortable giving them a part that was ±3 thou from my customer on a guarantee of ±5.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, even though I know they're more than capable of hitting it, but like if I had to give overflow work and I was going to use their service, I would want to make sure that the tolerances of my customer match their guarantee. So,
but if you need, I don't know, some fixture or something or jig for your shop, like not like a machining fixture, but like a, I'm assembling belt buckles or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for a machine shop, you have them rough out your jig, and then you put in the 3 dowel holes that it needs.
Yeah, 80% machined.
Now, I thought they were going to do... never mind, I'm not going to say that, because I don't know if that is public. Never mind. I don't remember where I heard that information, so I'm not going to repeat anything.
Do you have any questions for us, Ben? After... being as our guest?
No. Not that I can think of.
Was it everything you hoped it would ever be?
And more.
Do you feel like we beat you with a dead horse?
Not quite. Close.
Okay. Did we cross our Ds and odd our Ts?
Yeah.
Yeah. Dotted your T's and crossed your P's.
Okay. It's time for this thing.
All right, guys, we've reached the end of the podcast where our brains are fried, and yours is probably too. So, thanks for hanging out.
If they got this far.
Yeah, if you got this far. So, thanks for hanging out with us. And this has been Harrison with Precision Ingenuity, AJ with 14 different companies, and Ben from Pear Prototypes.
Wait. Stop the music.
Oh,
Ben, where would you like to be found on the internet?
So you can find me on Instagram at Prickly Pear Prototypes. And if you want to be involved in the hardware startup space, those guys all hang out on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. And there, I think I handle as Pear Prototypes.
Are you taking parts for your shop right now?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think my last quote took 17 minutes from when I got the email till I sent the quote.
PricklyPearPrototypes.com?
Yes, sir.
Cool.
Which oh, never mind. We only paused for AJ. So, anyways.
No, we paused for Ben on that one.
Okay. Yeah. So, redo of outro. Harrison, still with Precision Ingenuity. AJ, I think, added another company in between, so I think he's up to 15. And Ben with Prickly Pear Prototyping. So, yeah, we'll catch you guys next time.
Taps and patience will seize the day. Taps and patience, our daily grind. In this machine shop, we'll always find joyous struggles, all intertwined. Taps and patience, one of a kind.
Fun fact, when Jacob told me Ben was coming on, I thought it was Ben from Black Fox Machining. It was not.
Ooh.
But I'm glad this is Ben. Okay, bye.